the story of a family that comes together. I was the catalyst for a lot of the events between other characters.
He slapped me, right on set. Not because of the role, but because he wanted me to know I was just a puppet. That was the first time Meryl Streep tasted the dirty power of Hollywood. She had to swallow her anger, smile in front of the camera, and cry behind the scenes, for all those years. But now, at 75, she is silent no more. She demands justice. And she has named the 5 men she hates most. 5 names, 5 men who once pushed her to the brink of despair. And one of them is the man who silenced her for 20 years. Meryl dared to name those who once destroyed her. What about you? Do you dare to stand on the side of truth? Hit subscribe now, and join us in exposing the powerful figures no one dares to touch.
And it was a gorgeous, gorgeous ensemble of actors. People who...
Before becoming a victim of power, Meryl Streep was once a symbol of the power of art. Born on June 22, 1949, in Summit, New Jersey, she grew up in a middle-class family. No spotlight, no patron. But inside that curly-haired girl was a razor-sharp intellect and a soul so sensitive it was dangerous in the harsh world of Hollywood. She was a top student at Vassar College. Later, she went on to study at the prestigious Yale School of Drama, one of the finest institutions for aspiring actors. It was at Yale that she began to understand. Acting is not just talent, it's a battle for survival. And she won that battle. Not with beauty, not with scandal, but with one single weapon, performance that touches the deepest corners of the human soul. Meryl was the first woman in history to be nominated for an Oscar 21 times and win 3 times. Kramer vs. Kramer, 1979, Best Supporting Actress Sophie's Choice, 1982, Best Actress The Iron Lady, 2011, Best Actress. She once silenced the world when she embodied Margaret Thatcher, made audiences weep as the grieving mother in the bridges of Madison County, and forced all of Hollywood to bow before her sharp, commanding presence in The Devil Wears Prada. She is the uncrowned queen of the silver screen, a global icon, a haunting force to anyone who's ever acted alongside her. But behind those 21 Oscar nominations and countless standing ovations lies a quiet life full of pain. Moments of being shut out of negotiations. Real slaps, delivered right in front of the entire film crew. She has known glory. And she has also been crushed, in silence. They once thought she would stay silent forever. They were wrong. And when she had nothing left to lose, she began naming each one. Do you believe that was just an occupational hazard? Or was it Hollywood's way of punishing women who refused to bow down? Comment below, because truth does not exist unless someone dares to ask the question. And on the list of those who pushed her to the edge, he was the one who started it all, with a slap that was never in the script. In 1979, Kramer vs. Kramer catapulted Meryl Streep to stardom. But behind the spotlight was a hidden wound, not part of the film, but inflicted right on set. In a tense scene, Dustin Hoffman, her co-star, senior, and a man in power, slapped Meryl for real in front of the camera, without any warning. Not for the sake of art, but to assert his dominance. It was a real slap. I wasn't warned. I was in shock. No one has the right to do that to a fellow actor. Meryl recalled, her voice still icy with outrage. But that slap was only the beginning. Throughout the filming, Hoffman repeatedly disrupted scenes, manipulated her emotions, and dredged up the pain of her late husband, all just to force her to cry on camera. That wasn't acting. That was abuse of power. Emotional violence. Toxic control disguised under the noble term method acting. The film was a massive success. Both of them won Oscars. But Meryl did not celebrate. Because behind the golden statue were blood, tears, and a surrender she had never truly accepted. Dustin Hoffman was the first name Meryl could never forgive. Not just because of the slap, but because it symbolized a system of authoritarian men who kept women in silence and submission. That slap was just the beginning. If Hoffman humiliated her, then the next man would disgust her, not because of what he did, but because of the lies he cloaked in fame and power. Out of Africa, 1985, one of the most iconic love stories in cinema, where Meryl Streep and Robert Redford became a legendary on-screen couple. But behind those tender frames was a profound loneliness that only Meryl had to endure. Redford was known for being calm, charming, and gentlemanly. But on set, he was cold, distant, and emotionally unavailable. Meryl was left acting in what felt like a monologue, with no one truly present on the other side of her gaze. I had to imagine all the emotions, because he didn't give me anything to feel. She confessed. When she tried to break through the icy barrier, Redford turned to her, eyes void of feeling. You cry well. But the audience doesn't come to the theater for your pain. They come for me. A sentence like a razor-sharp blade, cutting straight into the pride of an actress who lives through emotion. The film was a success. Meryl received another Oscar nomination. Redford was celebrated as the perfect gentleman. But for Meryl, it was the loneliest role of her life. If Dustin Hoffman made her feel humiliated, then Robert Redford made her feel invisible, in her very own film. Mike Nichols, a director Meryl once considered a soulmate. A man who once said, "No script needed. Just let Meryl look into the lens, and I know exactly what she's thinking." Together, they created Silkwood, Postcards from the Edge, and Angels in America. Mike often praised her. No one understands women like Meryl does. But it was he who ended up stifling her creative voice. While filming Angels in America, Meryl suggested changing a few lines based on her character's instincts. Mike coldly dismissed it. "You're an actress, not a writer. Your job is to perform, not to think." A sentence that erased 2 decades of trust. Worse still, he quietly cut an important scene, one Meryl had prepared for night after night, believing it would be her defining moment. It vanished without a word. I don't know what hurt more, the scene being cut, or the fact that he didn't say a single word to me. Meryl shared in a 2005 interview. For someone like Meryl Streep, the greatest betrayal didn't come from an enemy, but from someone who once stood by her side. Mike Nichols never slapped her. He didn't need to. He only had to stay silent, right when she needed to be heard the most. Have you ever trusted someone as an ally, only to realize you were just a tool? Mike Nichols taught Meryl that lesson in the cruelest way. Sometimes, silence is more brutal than rejection. In the public eye, Jack Nicholson is a symbol of rebellion. In Meryl Streep's eyes, he was a symbol of arrogant abuse of power. They starred together in Heartburn, 1986, a dream project, script by Nora Ephron, directed by Mike Nichols, featuring Meryl and a living legend, Jack Nicholson. From day one, she realized, this wasn't a co-star, but a shadow that sought to consume the entire film. Jack arrived late, changed lines at will, disrupted the emotional rhythm of scenes, all in the name of creative freedom. When Meryl offered a suggestion, Jack laughed loudly. "Sweetheart, I'm here to be free, not to take lectures from schoolmarms." From then on, every scene became a battle of wits, not between characters, but between serious artistry and chaotic ego. Worse still, during a promotional interview, when asked about Meryl, Jack said, "She's so precise, it makes you forget this is just acting, not heart surgery." A line that seemed like a joke, but in truth, it was a slap in the face to Meryl's dedication, someone who treats acting as sacred. Have you ever been called too serious, just because you refuse to live superficially? Jack didn't yell or insult, he simply smiled, and turned her devotion into something she should feel ashamed of. Hit subscribe now, because the final name is the most powerful of all, and nearly caused Meryl to vanish from the screen forever. He called Meryl the greatest living actress. But behind that polished praise was a cold, unwritten rule: submit or be erased. Meryl didn't sign. And the price she paid was a quiet but crushing blacklist. A dinner invitation, she declined. A lead role, pulled at the last minute. A feminist project, blocked without mercy. At a crowded party, Weinstein said bluntly, "If you don't play by my rules, don't expect your films to ever see the light of day." She didn't respond. She simply stood up and walked away. But she knew, she had just declared war on an empire. No beatings. No insults. With just silence and power, Weinstein nearly made her vanish from Hollywood. If the others caused her pain, he brought her to the brink of collapse. Not everyone who screams is dangerous. The most terrifying are those powerful enough to make you disappear without a trace. If you've ever felt crushed for holding onto your self-respect, then this story is for you. 5 names. 5 wounds that left no blood, but created silences that may never be filled. Meryl Streep, the woman who once made all of Hollywood bow, had to learn to bow to those who used power to crush her dignity. But she didn't break. She waited for the right moment. And at 75, she chose to fight back. She didn't need to shout. She only needed to tell the truth, and the world had no choice but to listen. No more avoiding. No more compromise. Because if silence continues, the men who once slapped her on set will still stand on stage, soaking in applause they never deserved. Have you ever been silenced like Meryl? Have you ever been erased from something you helped create? Hit subscribe, because more truths are waiting to be revealed. And next time, it won't just be Meryl.